these comics.
Yeah.
So, how long ago were you diagnosed with type 2 diabetes?
Oh, gosh. Was it 3 years ago? 3 years ago? Something like that. Yeah, I got diagnosed with it. I was having a lot of trouble before that with high blood pressure and, you know, the typical symptoms, which were really screwing with my mind. So actually getting diagnosed was a bit of a relief because I got to deal with the symptoms, and I felt a whole lot better, and I've been able to be more productive now that I don't have to worry about peeing all the time or having my brain on fire from high blood pressure. As an autobiographical cartoonist, I began doing the series Diabetes Funnies as a way to come to terms with the condition. Some people used to say that used to slag autobiographical comics for being a cheap form of therapy, but I think that's a good thing. I remember Jaime Hernandez once saying that the reason he did comics was so he could figure out what they thought of things. It was a way for the cartoonists to figure out how they felt and what they thought about something in their own minds, and I think that's true. So I had to lose a whole lot of weight. I've lost about 85 pounds. Many of the early Diabetes Funnies actually have a lot to do with body image, the way the self-image and the way our society views body types. I also wrote about, you know, the medication I was taking and what I had to do, so it was about the process. And I would give copies to my doctor and the people at the diabetes clinic, but that's when they thought I might be suicidal. It's got a bit of a dark sense of humor about it, but I'm glad to say that I've responded to the treatments quite well, and I'm now off of diabetes medication.
So it's all completely controlled by diet now?
It's under control with diet and exercise and stress management. Basically, is the main thing. I actually did the latest Diabetes Funnies, which I just did, like, published yesterday. It's a bit unusual for me because it has an upbeat ending. I'm generally a sad and bitter person most of the time, but I actually felt I should do a comic about how well things are going, and so that is lucky number 13. These are wargaming figures. I use them for playing historical recreation games on tabletop. And this is a hobby I've been pursuing since I was very small, and these are metal figures that you buy that I hand paint. Down here is the French and Indian Wars, as they're called. These three bottom shelves.
I'm trying to find your hand on here. Oh, there we go.
These three bottom shelves. This is the British, the Anglo-Americans, and the First Nations. And then you have the French, and I've refought the Battle of the Plains of Abraham at my club. Up here, we have 6 shelves of Darkest Africa, which is East Africa in the late 19th century. There's the Maasai, and the Ngoni, and the Belgians, who were considered complete bastards. The Brits, and there's a few Germans over there, and generic Europeans. Zanzibar enslavers, who are my favorites.
Zanzibar enslavers?
Zanzibar enslavers. The island of Zanzibar, Arab, Swahili-speaking slavers who would raid into Africa to take slaves and ivory. This is my latest this is a more recent project. This is my War of 1812. Here we have the Americans. No, sorry, these are the Brits and Canadians. The British and Canadians. These guys here,
so tiny.
They're 15 mils.
Wow.
These guys are the French-Canadian militia. Then we have the Americans up here, and here we have the First Nations.
Right.
I was just given some of these Napoleonic naval, 1200th scale British Napoleonic naval ships.
Right.
Zulu War. Oh, and my samurai are down here. This is the beginning of my samurai project. These are E. Nemosa's Red Devils. And down here are the Sohei, which which are the militant armies of militant Buddhist monks and the peasants.
Tell me about your Playmobil. You've been collecting Playmobil figures for a while. So.
Yeah, well, I like the design that the work they do, and I'm just fascinated by the way they take these military warrior figures and they turned them into happy, smiley people. It's like the vicious killer Roman soldier with the happy smile. I once actually wrote a comic poem, an ode to a Playmobil Viking.
Oh, do you have the Viking? You have
Oh,
the actual figure?
there's more over here.
Oh, okay.
This is the
Oh,
Vikings.
yeah,
These are
okay.
the medieval stuff mostly. The Vikings are here, and
Wow.
as you can see, they're off to loot and pillage and rape, and they have the cute little smile. And it's like you really can't take it seriously when they put an axe through your head because you're happy. And like historical types, the Crusaders, they have a whole line of Crusaders, like the Teutonic Knights that basically fought a war of virtual genocide against the Slavs and the Prussians and the Germans to convert them to Christianity. But no, here they are, happy. Also, as a military history buff, I'm fascinated by the design work and what they're depicting. I've reviewed these figures. Like this guy here is an African warrior, and he's got a bizarre elements. The head ring and the shield are Zulu looking. The red robe is something you would probably see the Maasai wearing. And this spear is just enormously long, and I can't really find a good equivalent for it in African cultures.
What stuff attached to it? Is there some significance to that?
Well,
feathers or whatever those are?
Those are feathers. The spear actually comes from their Wild West range, so they're originally for Indians. And he's got this zebra skin vest, which, as far as I can tell, is sort of like 70s pimp style and has nothing to do with actual Africans. And the knife, actually, you probably could find a similar knife that was carried by the Maasai. But yeah, it's a cultural mishmash, really.
So you've never really done any superhero type comics?
No, I'm a comics elitist. Have been. Back in the 80s, I was reading the Comics Journal and feeling superior. Yeah, because I read superhero comics when I was a kid, but I wasn't actually like much of a comics fan. I never collected them. I collected them at random. I never collected complete series or anything. I barely really realized that was like an option. But I wasn't all that serious about comics until I discovered Asterix, Segal, and Tintin. But then later on, I was into undergrounds and alternative comics and small press, and this whole superhero mainstream comics was a different world. It had nothing to do with me or anybody I cared about. Just recently, I was getting really pissed off with the whole economic situation, what I'd been learning about what the banks had done for the meltdown, and I was getting pissed off, and so I did a mini comic, my first and probably only superhero comic about my alter ego, the Red Menace, who goes off to the downtown and rips the heads off bankers. Sort of Robin Hood character who would steal from the bad guys and give the money to the poor, like rape relief shelters and food banks and things. So he was kind of a Robin Hood outlaw guy. I painted a little figure for him, and I gave him some testicles because superhero models, the characters, they didn't have balls, which I thought was kind of odd, seeing they were running around in skin tight clothes. So
he's an anatomically correct superhero.
Well, I like to think so.
Turtles?
Turtles. I can't stand the little bastards
Oh, okay.
going around shelling.
Yes, this is true. They are very shelly.
Shelly, very shelly.
Okay.
Complete and utter bastards.